Okay, we're on 52A, top of the page.
I learned to the bottom.
Oh, very nice. Happy birthday.
You're in honor of my cousin.
Your cousin's
One of
birthday.
Rachel, who I know you will come up in the shop.
You weren't allowed to come on. You just
I-
Because of your birthday. Another again's birthday.
Okay.
If there's a young girl that's already 12 years old and she has 2 hairs that show her maturity. If she has her husband passed away, she has a brother-in-law, she's only 12, so she's able to do chalitza. That means she says she doesn't want this person, or this person doesn't want her, and this brother-in-law. And she can also do yibam. No, she's old enough for both. She's obligated in all the mitzvahs that are said in the Torah. Now, we had a machlekes exactly what age this is. If it's 12 or 13, Reb Shimon ben Elazar, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, one of them, they said that a boy or a girl, a boy's 13, a girl is 12, and there was an opinion that said the opposite. But whatever the case is, this girl is chayiv in all mitzvahs that it says in the Torah. The Gemara is going to ask, if she's chayiv in all mitzvahs in the Torah, then why does it have to say chaletzes and mitzvahs? She's chayiv anyway in all mitzvahs, and she's old enough. But that should include that. We'll see shortly. Same with the boy. He's chayiv in all mitzvahs in the Torah. He's already 13, and he has maturity. He's reached maturity. He has the 2 hairs. Royalius ben Seir Meir, and he's eligible to be a ben Seir Meir if he's so inclined. That because at that age you have to be 13. And how long does this go until? From when he has 2 hairs until the area is covered in a beard. Now, when it says zakan, a beard, hatachten v'lei elyon, it means the lower area. It doesn't mean on the face. That means his private area is full of hair. But the sages said that he has a beard. They were speaking euphemistically. They didn't want to say the lower area. They just said a beard. That's what they meant. The reason for this is because a ben Seir Meira has to be a ben Seir Meira, and at a certain age, he's considered he's potentially a father. If he's able to procreate, then he's not considered a ben anymore. Can't be. There was an old fellow in the Shul Bel Harbor. He had 2 canes. He would walk with 2 canes. He was a partisan. He was a survivor. Label Goldshire. Remember? It was funny. So one time he's walking with 2 canes. He says, "Habrach manasef mir. Ich bin a Yassim von beide Seiten." That means I'm an orphan from both sides. He's like 90 something. So at a certain point, he's considered an orphan. That's not how it works. So a ben Seir Meira has to be before he's able to procreate. So it's only from 12 till Yad Sheyakif Zakan until the hair is filled in. Tinaika Shevish Desira is a girl that she's reached maturity because she has the 2 hairs. She cannot walk out of a marriage. Now, this is referring specifically to a marriage that was not done by her father. It was done by either her mother or her brothers because the father passed away. So the mother and brothers are allowed to marry her off, but it's only a rabbinic marriage. And if she decides she's not interested, she can walk out, but only when she's a child. At a certain point, then the marriage takes effect. And if she's reached maturity, then she can't walk out. We'll see exactly the detail in a moment. That it's slightly longer than that. It's until the area looks dark with hair. That is. So keep on the Tanan. The Gemara says, since it was taught that he's obligated, she's obligated in all the mitzvahs in the Torah. So this would be in quotations. So what do I need that phrase? In that she can do chalitza, which is the rejection of the brother-in-law, or the brother-in-law rejects her. and Yibam, all the mitzvahs in the Torah she's obligated in. So it says Lafukim with Rabbi Yaisi. It's coming to exclude an opinion of Rabbi Yaisi. Rabbi Yaisi is Rabbi Yaisi ben Chalafta. We're going to have a lot about him today. It's going to be one of our main. Rabbi Yaisi ben Chalafta. He's a student of Rabbi Akiva, and he holds Damar Ish Kasav Parsha. When it talks about chalitza, it says that a man, aval isha ben gedel ben ketana, but the woman could be the chalitza could be performed on her whether she's a child or not. It's only the man part of this that needs to be the adult, but not the woman. So therefore, that it would say di'aisish they saris in Eloi. So Kamash Mala comes to teach us that not. The Aishish they saris in Eloi Loi. Not like Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says that the woman's age doesn't matter in Yibam or Chalitza. Kamash Mala in our Mishnah that no, woman's age does matter. That's because we would have said, if we left out that phrase, we would have said all mitzvahs of the Torah, the woman is obligated in. But it could be going according to Rabbi Yossi that says that Chalitza and Yibam could be performed on a woman, that even on a girl, even if she's under 12. Kamash Malan, that we don't accept Rabbi Yossi's opinion, and Chalitza and Yibam also have to be when she's old enough and reached maturity. My time, Isha Ki'ish. The reason is because the woman has the same halachas of the man, which she needs to have reached maturity. Even the Tana, once it's taught, and the same as with the boy. So this would be in quotations. So why does it have to add in that phrase? It's a very interesting question. Why does it have to finish the sentence? All it has to say is, and also the boy. It would be the same thing. And if you want to say Mishum the Kabbalah Misnivrelis Ben Seir Meira, maybe because you want to teach me the special halachas here of Ben Seir Meira that applies to the boy, doesn't apply to a girl. You want to know those halachas that it says about a boy, Ben Seir Meira, what the age is, and that's what this Mishnah is teaching me, and that's why it has to finish the sentence. We already have a Mishnah about that. Emasaya Ben Seir Meira, and at what point can a boy become a Ben Seir Meira? Means the wayward son. Yeshever Shtei Saris, when he has the two hairs, Raji Yaakov Zakanatacht and the Le'alien, Elish Dibra Chacham and Balash Nakiya. This is all a quote. That we have another Mishnah that says the age of a Ben Seir Meira, which is from 2 years until he has the beard, which is the lower beard, we say. The sage is spoken in a clean manner. So I already have that stated. So why does our Mishnah need to restate it? The Gemara says, you're right. You don't need to restate it. We just wanted to make it symmetrical. We spoke about the girl. We spoke about the boy. Make it parallel the discussion. That's why we did that. Okay. What we saw in this is that the Gemara learns the Mishnah the way like we would learn a pasuk, that any extra word needs to be explained. So,
did we, or are we going to define this 2 years thing?
Yeah, we're going to do that now. Okay. What happens now is the Gemara is going to quote the end of the Mishnah that we're going to examine. It goes like this. A girl that has 2 hairs, she's not allowed to do mian anymore because she's too old. And mian is when you walk out of a marriage that's not a biblical marriage, and you don't need a get. And the marriage is able to end just by the girl rejecting the husband. She says, I'm not interested anymore. So because it's only of rabbinic nature, so that rejection is enough. You don't need all the laws of Gittin and all of that. So Amar Rabba Vo, Amar Rabba Lazar. Rabba Vo says in the name of Rabba Lazar.
Excuse me. Does she get a kasura? Is there a...
No.
Doesn't get anything.
I don't think so. I don't think there's anything yet.
All itself.
She gets freedom.
Yeah, but this is the brothers, right? Mian would be the brothers of the mother. Rabba Vo says in the name of Rabba Lazar. Rabba Vo he says in the name of Rabba Lazar. He's going to explain the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda was a friend of Rabbi Yossi. I said we're going to talk about Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yehuda is right here, right next to Rabbi Yossi. And Rabbi Vo, it's not a first generation. It's like a second or third generation. Rabbi Lazar is probably considered a second generation.
What was the problem the rabbis were trying to solve in allowing this rabbinic marriage? Is it because the father was gone and he didn't have enough money to support her, keep her around? What was this problem they were solving? I'm wondering.
In allowing the brothers to marry her up.
Yeah, and without the kinds of protections that a woman normally has.
Right. I'm not sure if it's keeping her, if it's keeping the girl sustained.
Just
Maybe.
I should. Okay. Side track.
Right.
Thank you.
So Rabbi Vo says in the name of Rabbi Lazar, halacha to Rabbi Yehuda, that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, that miyun could take place a little bit later as well, until actually Yarba Shachar, until the area looks dark. Umayda Rabbi Yehuda would agree, however, Rabbi Yehuda would agree. You see, Rabbi Yehuda argued with the sages. The sages said that this girl is able to reject her marriage and walk out. The sages said until she has 2 hairs. Rabbi Yehuda says no. Even after she has 2 hairs, she can still reject the marriage, as long as that area doesn't look dark, it isn't covered in hair. Now, Rabbi Yehuda would agree to the sages that they would be considered correct. They would be right, and she's not allowed to walk out of a marriage if there's relations after the 2 hairs are there. This is what Rabbi Vo is adding, the name of Rabbi Lazar, to this opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. We didn't have this opinion, and we didn't know that Rabbi Yehuda would say this. We just thought, okay, husband and wife, rabbinical marriage, and she could walk out. He says, no. It depends. If after she's reached the age that she has 2 hairs, she can't walk out. Even though, no, she can't walk out only if there were relations from them after that time. But if they didn't have any relations then she would still be able to walk out of the marriage until she's a little bit older. Chavrui de Rav Kahana, the friends of Rav Kahana, Savra Lamevad of the Rabbi Yehuda. I'm not sure which Rav Kahana it is because we mentioned that there's either 2 or 6. They wanted to paskin like Rabbi Yehuda. And they wanted to paskin like Rabbi Yehuda that she can still walk out of the marriage, not like the way Rabbi Vo was explaining it, but afalgab de nivla, even though she had relations, that she still can reject the marriage. Amalu Rav Kahana tells them, was there not a story with the daughter of Rabbi Shmuel? And apparently Rabbi Shmuel passed away, and his daughter got married off by his wife, the girl's mother. And the girl comes in, she's 12 years old, and she comes into the Beis Medrash. She wants to reject the man that her mother had supplied for her. And this girl has a child on her shoulders. A baby Bajorn. So that's what I mean. And that day, they had learned the teaching of Rabbi Shmuel in the Beis Medrash. Was a great cry in the Beis Medrash. We're going to see what Rabbi Shmuel taught. Something that this tzaddik has taught his children should stumble in, means they should have that same scenario, that the teaching of the father. The Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Mishum Rabbi Shmuel. We have it quoted in the name of Rabbi Yehuda, in the name of Shmuel, in the name of Rabbi Shmuel, but that was the teaching. It says, V'hi leinet basa asura. It's talking about the Saita woman. It says that if she wasn't forced to be with this other man, that means willingly she went with a stranger and not her husband, then she's forbidden to be with her husband. But the Gemara is medai. But if she is forced, that means she was raped. Muteris, she's allowed to go back to her husband. However, there is another woman. You see, the diak is from Lashon V'hi. She, he is she. So, in Old English, the he, we in more modern English, we added an S to change it. But in Old English,
In Hebrew, he is she also.
no, there's a problem. In Hebrew, who and he is very close.
Right.
In English, we've resolved it by adding an S. But in Old English, it was also a hair and a he and a hair. And something, yeah, and we added it to resolve it. So we changed it. But it says the he, and which means and she. It means specifically this woman was. There's a difference between if she was willingly or if it was unwillingly. So, but we have another woman. It doesn't matter if it was willingly or unwillingly. She's always going to be permitted. We could have said the other way. It doesn't matter willingly or unwillingly. She's always forbidden. That would be a someone that's married to a kayan, I guess. But here we're saying it doesn't matter if it was willingly or unwillingly. She always permitted. How is that possible? The Ezu, which woman is that? That whether she has another relationship willingly or unwillingly, she's permitted. This is shekdusha kedushitas. Either her marriage was all a mistake. What's an example of kedushitas? Do they have examples over there in the article? What's
Says if a person says, "I'm married on the Lashon Nikayin,"
so
it turns out he's not.
he's not. So if the marriage was done on a condition that she finds out, or it was all incorrect. It was all incorrect. He says, there was a condition there. That was a mistake. It wasn't correct. And there's another case. The other case is that if there's a girl that was married off when she's young and she wants to do mian,
So the mother can't give her off the marriage.
If it's a case, if it's a case that the father had passed away and the mother marries her off, so that's an example of a case of mian, where the girl can actually walk out. So in such a case, that has the same status as kedushitas, which means that the marriage was all a mistake. And what it means is like this: that if she's together with another man, she can still go back willingly. She can still go back to her first husband because that first husband was never really a husband. So it was like a single boy and a single girl that are living together. The girl goes and is with someone else, but they were never married, the first one, so she can go back to the first one. It's when is there a problem of going back to the first husband after she's with someone else? That's only if that was a real marriage. But if they were just like singles, so then she can go back. So she can go back. So this would be a case where she can go back. But
what does that mean? That this first son's not a mamzer?
No, it's not a mamzer. It's just like wedlock. It's not a
A
mamzer.
wedlock baby. Okay.
So, well, that's interesting. That's interesting. It's not so clear if there's a machlekes. What's the pshat in a zayna? That's a discussion. A zayna, there's a machlekes if it means she's mufkeres lakol, that she never rejects anyone. There's a spectrum there of what goes into the category of a zayna. Now, or if she's with zayna could also be with a non-Jew. Nimnu v'gamru ad masai habas memanis, and the rabbis established until when can a girl walk out of a marriage in such a case where the mother marries her off? Ashetavish saris, until there's 2 hairs. So Parash Le'avarutta, in this case with Rav Kana, where they wanted to paskin like Rabbi Yehuda, they said that he explained to them that because it was not because, but there was a story with Rabbi Yishmael, and that his daughter came in, and they almost allowed her to do miyan, but they established that you can't do miyan because they cast like Rabbi Yehuda, and since she already had a child.
What is miyan?
Miyan is when they reject the husband, and she walks out without a get.
One no.
Yeah. Okay.
Not so sometimes
Could be.
But this Nidda Daf is according to Rabbi Shmuel or against Rabbi Shmuel?
So it's against Rabbi Yishmael. But it's interesting that they come in.
Very
Their
sad.
Bachsa Bechia
How
Gedaila.
could they have gone after all the crying against Rabbi Shmuel?
I think the crying was that how could it be that that a scenario that Rabbi Shmuel spoke about should happen to his daughter,
And then they go against them.
and then they say that she can't do miyan.
Very odd.
It's just
Very
thinking. You know the story with Rabbi Shmuel? We read it in the Kinnis. Rabbi Shmuel Kohen Gadol has a son and a daughter
they went
that
to
are
Rome.
they went to
They went to
Rome.
Rome and
Went to
was in
Rome.
the jail and almost got married.
Right. Now Rabbi Shmuel himself was the Harugi Malchus.
Yeah.
So there's details here that can get supplemented from other places to fill in like what was going on here. Rabbi Shmuel gets killed. This girl is married to someone by her mother. So who ends up in Rome afterwards? Is this the same girl? I don't know.
Or he had many girls.
It could be more. Okay. So what we're learning here is that you can't do miyan after there's 2 years if there was relations.
So according to Rabbi Shmuel, he says over here there's no time limit for a meal of a mistaken marriage.
Right.
You could even be an adult and you could have meal. Because it's learned from the puzzle.
Right.
It's a very, very, I mean, she could be 25 years old. She
So
could
Rabbi
have a
Shmuel,
meal and
right?
just walk
And
out.
Rabbi Shmuel's logic that Rashi brings is that when the man and woman are together, when they have relations, so they're not intending that these relations should be a marriage, because there's 3 ways to acquire a woman. One of them is relations. They're intending that the first relation was the marriage, and they're just being together now. So he says that Aldas Kedushin Rishonim, everything is Aldas, but there was no Kedushin Rishonim, because all Kedushin Rishonim was all the original marriage wasn't really there.
So is it the case that there would typically not be any ripple or suha?
Right.
So bia was all there was, and there was no bia.
Right. Bia was all there was. No,
To make it a marriage, but there was no bia.
Bia was all there was to make it a marriage, and the problem is that the original Bia was not a real, because she was not real because she was too young, not under 3, but it wasn't considered a kedushin because she was too young to accept kedushin. It would need to be her father. Her father wasn't around, so it was just her mother. Her mother, whatever they got money for it. So all of that is all rabbinic. So it would play out today that there's the machlekes if someone had a civil marriage, if they need a get. So they went to a courthouse. They went to a courthouse. They got married. Now afterwards they're living together. Now the truth is, husband and wife that are living together, everyone knows. They go into the house. Everyone knows that they're together. Everyone knows that so that could be Eidim, that we know they're living together. So that would be considered a kedushin, right? So the other side says that it's not a kedushin. The fact that they're living together. When they're living together, they're not having intention for kedushin, for marriage. They think that the whole marriage ended in front of the judge, and that was the whole marriage. Everything that they're doing is only in front of it's only a continuation. It's after what was done by the judge. This is not marriage. This this relation. So that's what Rabbi Shmuel is saying, is that yes, they were married earlier and now they're continuing to live together, but there was none of this relations is considered a marriage. It's all al das, that first kedushin, which never existed. So there's never a marriage.
I read an opinion, a modern opinion from someone in Israel, who said he would prefer people who are not dati to have civil marriages rather than
Because of the get
rabbinic
issue.
marriage, because then it makes it easy to deal with subsequent problems.
Right.
It's kind of
Right.
shocking.
Subsequent what?
Subsequent problems.
Because
You
of
don't
the
know
get.
about those.
You don't have to worry
Because of
about
the
all
get.
this.
If they don't get a get, then there's a way out.
Interesting.
But the real interesting opinion is Sri Dayesh, Rabbi Yechiel Weinberg, that holds that someone that had a civil marriage needs a civil divorce to get out of it. That halachically needs a civil divorce. Not civilly, of course civilly they need a civil divorce, but halachically. Okay. Rabbi Yitzchak, v'talmidid Rab Chanina, thank you. V'talmidid Rab Chanina, Avad Uvda Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yitzchak and the students of Rabbi Chanina. Rabbi Chanina is up on the top. He's here, Rabbi Chanina Bar Chama. It's above Rabbi Yochanan. And Rabbi Yitzchak, there's Rabbi Yitzchak somewhere here. He's very early. Rabbi Yitzchak is under Rabbi Yochanan. Oh, so we're talking about Rabbi Yitzchak and the Talmidim of Rabbi Chanina. So that would fit. Avad of the Rabbi Yehuda. They passed him like Rabbi Yehuda. And however, they were more lenient. Afagav Nivala, even though there were relations, they still said that she has more time to reject the first husband. Azul Rav Shaman Bar Abba went, and Amar Kamei Rav Yechanan, and he tells Rav Yechanan. If you look at the chart, you really see what's going on. You have Rabbi Chanina Bar Chama is up here. Rabbi Yitzchak is he's down over there under Rabbi Yechanan, and Rabbi Shaman Bar Abba, who I don't have here, went to Rabbi Yechanan and he tells him, Also Rabbi Yechanan Amar Kamei de Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya. Rabbi Yechanan goes and he tells Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya. You see on the side, Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya is a grandson, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Now he had more power. Shadar Balsha Vafkua. Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya did not hold of this opinion, and a Balsha is an army.
Army of spies.
Sends an army to get to take her out of the second husband, because there wasn't really a divorce here. He held that you needed a real divorce, and they were paskening that miyan was enough. So they controlled the marriages with the army. They sent him in. They took her out. Amar Rav Chizda, Amar Mar Ukva. Rav Chizda says. Marukva says, it doesn't mean that the whole area needs to look dark, blackened. Rather, it just means that there are two hairs that are long enough that they could cover the area. Yes, stretch them out, they would cover the area. Rava Amar Shtei Saras Amakifas Misaf Alasaf. It goes around from one side to the other. Amar Rab Chelba Yamar Rab Huna. They need to have gumus, must mean like a follicle. Is that what they say? They must have a hole there that the hairs are coming out of. Look at this. This is interesting. Gemara. Rab Malkiai.
Who's Malkiah?
Malki.
You see,
Malkiah.
Malkiai. Rab Malkiah. Amar Ravada Baraba. He says the name of Ravada Baraba. Gumais, these holes, these follicles, Afal Pishain Cyrus, it's enough even if they don't have hair. The follicle itself, that indent, that hole in the skin, that's a hole that's for hair, that's considered like she's reached puberty, even if there's no hairs there. Just the follicle itself would be enough. Amar Rav Chanina Breder Ravika, Rav Chanina Breder Ravika said, he's going to divide up what's going on over here, because he just mentioned the name that we're not so familiar with. So he's going to say, look at this. Shvachais v'gumais Rav Malkiai. 3 halachas that are said in the name that Rav Malkiai said. One of them we know is the gumais. The shvachais is a mishnah where Rav Malkiai says that the halacha is like Rebbe Lazar, and the shpud. What does it say? It's a spit of some sort. Does it say the case? 35.
One is forbidden to put ash
May
from
not
an
be
oven on
moved
an open
after
wound.
roasting. Becomes muktzah.
Because
Spit
of
that was used
tattoo,
becomes
put a
muktzah.
tattoo.
Now the next thing is beliris. If someone is giving a non-Jew a haircut, if he's allowed to leave what hair he's not allowed, it's not supposed to cut because I guess it was like an idolatrous haircut. Efer mikla is the ash that you just mentioned. And what does it say there with the ash?
If you take hot ash and put it on the wound, you may be tattooing.
Okay, and a gvina and cheese. Why was non-Jewish cheese forbidden? There's many reasons given over there. One of them is because they would smear it with pig fat.
Ooh.
Now,
Oh, no.
that's all of those three halachas was Rav Malkiah. Now, notice there's Rav Malkiah and Rav Malkiah. So we divided. There's 6 halachas here. 3 of them were from Malkiah, and 3 of them from Malkiah.
One's a boy, one's a girl.
So
The husband
Rav Papa,
went
they're actually generations apart. Rav Papa Amar Masnisen Umasnisa is Rav Malkiah. Shmaitz is Rav Malkiah. If it's a qualifying a Mishnah or a Brisa, then it's Rav Malkiah. But if it's an independent halacha, a shmaitza, that's said by an Amira, so that's Rav Malkiah. And the Simana Masnisa Malkisa. Malkisa is the feminine, right? Malkisa. So Masnisa, Malkisa. So the Mishnah is Rav Malkiah. Okay, my Benayo, what's the difference between the way Rav Papa is saying it and the way Rav Chanina bar Rav Ika says it? The problem is that Shvachas is actually a Mishnah and was put in the first group. So what you need to do is you need to take out the Efer Mikla, put that with Rav Malkiah, and you put the Shvachas with Rav Malkiah, and that's what Rav Papa would be doing. Amar Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi says, Amali Marzutra. Rav Marzutra told me, Kasha bar Rabbi Chanina Misura. Rabbi Chanina Misura has a question over here. He has a difficulty in this. It says, Leila Shtamet Tana, Bashmin and Gumais. There's not a single mention of Gumais in all of these halachas, of follicles. It always says 2 hairs. And comes along Rav Malkiah and says that the follicle is enough. Don't you think if that was enough, someone would have mentioned that earlier? It says, Iyashmin and Gumais. It says no. If it would have said follicles, Havamina, would have thought Gumais. Would have thought that you need 2 hairs and 2 follicles. Amash Malan coming to teach us that you can have 2 hairs coming out of 1 follicle. And that would be enough. Oh, that's interesting. That's why it doesn't say gumais, because it would have told me that I need 2 gumais, and really I only need 1 if there's 2 hairs. Is there such a thing that you have 2 hairs coming out of 1 follicle? Vaksiv. Want to Google that? Vaksiv Asher.
I'll tell you the answer. The answer is normal physiology. 1 follicle, 1 hair. There's genetic variation for people who can have 2 hairs coming out of 1 follicle. So it does happen. It's just not common.
It says Asher Besara Yishupeni Vaharbe Hitzi Chinam. This means it's written, for he has shattered me with a whirlwind. That's a Sarah. Multiplied my wounds for no reason. V'amar Rava, and Rava says, Iyaiv Besara Chiref, Besara Hishivu. Iyaiv, how do they translate Chiref? He angered God with the whirlwind, and they answered him with the strong wind, the whirlwind. Chiref, Besara Chiref. Amar Lafana, he says, Iyaiv says to Hashem, Rabbeinu Shalom, Shema Ruach Sa'ara Arva Lefanecha. Maybe there was a strong wind that went before you. Maybe you got mixed up. You don't know who I am. By the way, my name is Job. You was saying, I'm the good guy. You were thinking about Oyev, the enemy. Sounds alike. My grandmother used to sing the song about this guy that took his girl to a buffet or something. So a man named William Morgan took a girl to, and she ordered everything. I was there, and at the end of the song it goes, "My name is Morgan. You might have known me long, but you got my initials wrong. My name is Morgan, but it ain't JP." So. So anyway, so here he was saying it's the two vowels in the middle you mixed up. So Basara Shivu, they answered him with the wind. It says Vayan Hashem es Hashem responds Minasara from the wind. Vayomer love, and he says to him, Shaita Shabailam, fool of the world, Harbin Nimin Barasi Bresha Shaladam. I created many hairs on the head of a person. And in each hair, I created its own follicle. You shouldn't have two hairs that are coming from one follicle. If there would be two hairs coming from one follicle, it would weaken his eyesight. So look at this. You got to figure out what the hairs have to do with the eyesight. So, guma beguma leineschalafli. If I don't mix up follicles, it's a iya. If I don't mix up follicles, you think I'm going to mix up iya and oyev? So what's our problem? Why are we quoting this? Interesting, but why are we quoting? We're quoting this because we said that we could have thought, if one of the Tanaim would have mentioned Guma, we could have thought that you need actually two follicles. And really you only need one, because you can get two hairs out of one follicle. That's why we didn't mention it. 1 second. You can't get two hairs out of one follicle. Hashem tells Eve that he doesn't do that. Gemara says, like kasha, habagufa habaresha. Depends on the body or on the head. If you look carefully, it says the follicles on the head don't have two hairs, but on the body, maybe there's two hairs.
Oh, I got the answer. No, I have to look, because I know, like, for example, had you asked me about ears, I would say, if a person has deformed ears, they might have a problem with their kidneys. Why? Because the kidneys and the ears are formed at the same time during the gestational stage. All right? So I said, no, maybe the ear has to do something with the eyes. So it says here, 22 weeks into your pregnancy or 20 weeks after conception, your baby's eyebrows and hairs are visible. So maybe that's what they mean.
It's
And
not
they say the
you have
eyes,
to give
the
it-
eyebrows.
Interesting.
Interesting.
You're a motorcycle.
Where's the motorcycle?
You never know. What they mean.
You said
Don't say
eyebrows
these
and what else
sauces
was
is
one?
two-sided.
Eyebrows and hair.
Might be a mistake of a side or a two-sided.
So maybe that's what they mean.
Don't say these sauces is a
Yeah,
side.
that's saying all of Seder Stalshus is their sires. The Seder Stalshus, the spiritual chain of evolution. It's all through here, so you can't mix it. Okay. I heard a share once from Yossi Jacobson, the difference between hair that grows up and hair that grows down. So why is hair on the head? We're supposed to keep it short, and hair on the beard, we're supposed to let it grow. And so he had I don't remember his, I remember the question, I don't remember his.
Because the hair that's on the bottom is really growing up, right? Like the people, why they don't fall down on the bottom of the earth and fire, they're really facing the Shema.
What are you saying? Take it away. I'm Rav Yehuda Mishmol.
I was in the house.
Wow.
Still here?
I was in the building.
Rav Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel, Shtei Sarish Amru, this is a very common pair. Rav Yehuda is a student of Shmuel. Shtei Sarish Amru, when we said that there's two hairs, you don't have to be one next to each other. One could be right above the organ, and The other one could be on the testicles. That could also be considered 2 hairs and it's reached maturity. Tani nami hachi, shtei sar shamra fil achas begav achas bekresa. Could be, this is by the girl, one would be on her stomach, and one would be also underneath, under that area. Achas al gabi kishri etzpeiser shel yad, v'achas al gabi kishri etzpeiser shel regel, div Reb Shimon ben Yehuda ish kfar Akko sham mishum Reb Shimon. Here's on the fingers. It's also considered that they've reached puberty. So even if one is on the knuckles,
Easier way to check.
yeah, less invasive.
That's awesome.
On the fingers, and one on the finger and one on the foot is also going to be good. That's Reb Shimon ben Yehuda Kfar Akko says. The name of Reb Shimon bar Yochai. V'Rabbanan, V'Rabbanan, Reb Shimon v'Rabbanan. Rabbanan Amar. How do you do this? Because Reb Chisda can't be there. How do they write this? Rabbanan. What about the rabbis? That's how you have to do it. It's like a question. Amar Chisda says, Achiyu Beisars Makamech, they need to be in the same place. Okay. Tana Rabbanan. Start in a brisa. What's that? Aleph. Ravashi instead of a Chisda, it's Ravashi. An Maseh Abbas Mena such Tavish they Saris Divri Rabbi Meir. Until when can a girl reject the marriage? That is until she has 2 hairs. That's Rabbi Meir's opinion. Rabbi Yudah Shir B'Shachar, like we learned in the Mishnah, until it's darkened in that area. Rabbi Yossi Shetakav Torah. Rabbi Yossi says when it covers over that area as well. Ben Shlaka says Ad Shetechalchal, until it's techalchal. But Reb Shimon says Matzani Chanina ben Chachinai b'tzidain. Shimon says, I found Reb Chanina ben Chachinai b'tzidain b'Amar, and he said, Kashata Magi to Rabbi Akiva, when you get to Rabbi Akiva, Amar, you should tell him, Ad Maseh Abbas Manas, until when can a girl do miyan, reject the marriage? If he's going to tell you the common answer, which is until she has 2 hairs, Amar, say to him, but Ben Shlakish was testified in front of you in Yavne. He says, until Techalchal. And you didn't say and tell him anything. So Reb Shimon says like this. I came to Rabbi Akiva. Amarli, he says to me, Kilkal Zani Yedema, I don't know what it is, what Kilkal is. And Ben Shlakish in Makir, and I don't recognize Ben Shlakish. It doesn't mean he doesn't recognize him, it means that he doesn't hold of him. It's only until there's 2 hairs. Now Chanina, if he argues with an individual, if there's one person that Rabbi Chanina ben Chachinai and Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai were both students of Rabbi Akiva. I think Rabbi Chanina ben Chachinai was one of the Asara Harugi Malchus. Remember what else? There's the Gemara. He's quoted in other places. He's in even in the Mishnayos. Rabbi Chanina ben Chachinai, several places.
Does Kalkel have an
What is it?
Meaning
What is it meant to be?
Yeah.
It means probably that there's a lot of hair there. It may mean until it's like dreadlocks. And Rashi rejects that pshat. How do they translate it over there?
Which word are you looking at?
I'm going the wrong way.
Kyoko?
Not their field, not their side.
Rabbi Akiva said, Kyoko said, any of the amount?
Until it lies flat, they translate it there.
They're not
It says until it lies flat, which would mean until there was enough hair that it covered the whole area.
There's kli, which is economics, which is a double covering. So maybe that's what it means, like flat, a double layer of hair that encloses it, that shields it.
Mikashkeshet.
Uh-huh.
That scales, yeah.
Interesting.
This guy is
Okay.
rocket science.
Stay Cyrus, we're up to a new Mishnah here. What did it mean economic? What did it mean economic?
Economics in Hebrew is kalkala, which is
That was my
Right.
question.
Like halamichiv al kalkala.
It's funny, and that's the opposite of mechalkel, sustenance.
That's what
Again, a
the
word that means opposite.
No, it should all
Mechalkel
mean,
chaim b'chesed.
but that should all mean sustenance.
But he says kalkala is
Economic.
no, his the kilkula is the what did you say?
shemechalkel chaim b'chesed.
No, the other way.
Sustains.
What kilkul is the
What is with proof?
the kuf.
That's what it
Oh, I'm doing a chaf.
Yeah, we're doing
Ah,
kuf.
cream seed. You know, give me a break.
I was left the room. Take
You
one
can't
away.
take that soldier back. He's enlisted for
The
3
English language goes J K L M N O P Q R S T is Yud.
No, it's element and OP.
Yud is the J. Start from the Yud is the J. The Kaf is the K. Yud, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samech. Ayin is Ayin in there. O. P. It's missing the Samech. The Samech is out. LMNOP. Q is the Kaf. QRST. Reish Shin Kaf. It's the same order.
Besides the sama.
Besides for the
They
Samech.
don't know how to say sama.
Well, that's an interesting thing because in
Sama
the,
Hashem will call my
that's an interesting thing with the Samech, with the Samech, right? S. Okay. The Mishnah goes like this. Shtei Saras Amors, the Parah and the Goyim, the 2 hairs that are said regarding the Paraduma. Paraduma needs to be red. And if there's 2 black hairs, it's puzzle. In the Goyim, you need to have 2 hairs inside the spot of leprosy. And that are said anywhere else, 2 hairs, referring to what we're discussing. So when it reaches maturity. All of that is they lock of Reishon Le'ikran. They need to be long enough to bend over the top to the bottom. You have to be able to grab it and bend it over. Divri Rabbi Yishmael, that's the words of Rabbi Yishmael. We mentioned Rabbi Yishmael once today already. Rabbi Eliezer that you should be able to grab it with your fingernail, which that's the smallest size. Rabbi Kiva says you should be able to take it with a tweezer. Now you would think a tweezer is smaller because today tweezers would be smaller than what you can grab with your fingernails. Turns out that in those days it wasn't really like that. Cast iron.
Like tongs, right? The
Before,
tongs that made the tongs.
before aluminum.
Okay. Amar Rav Chisda, Amar Marukva, halacha k'divrikulim lahachmer. Rav Chisda says in the name of Marukva that the halacha is like all of them, but only to be more strict. That means that at a point where it's so short, where you can grab it with your fingernail, it's too late to do miyun. But you still can't do chalitza until you can grab it with, until you can bend over it, probably. Until you can bend over the top to the bottom. Not old, she's in between in this middle time, not mature yet. Araya Kesem. Okay, now we're back to Masechtas Nidda.
This is the shortest Gemara.
Yeah, if you had
A line and a half.
an assignment for a student, you have to
I'll
do a
learn
Mishnah
that
till the
one.
next Mishnah. So, okay, I do that one.
This is introduction to
Yeah, this is a rather a complex, small, short piece, but we'll do okay. Araya Kesem. If a woman sees a stain, the first thing that we have to recognize here is that not the colors of the stain that we discussed a lot of times, but also that if a woman sees 3 times, so she becomes a Zava Gedaila. If she sees once, she's a Zava Ketana. If she sees twice, she's also a Zava Ketana. You see what happens is the month is divided into 2 parts, when she's supposed to see and when she's not supposed to see. If she sees when she's supposed to see even once, she becomes a Nidda for 7 days. If she sees when she's not supposed to see, then she becomes a Zava. How many times does it take for her to become a Zava Gedaila during those 11 days when she's supposed to be clean? So it's 3 times. Actually, not 3 times, it's 3 days that she's supposed to see. Okay, so these calculations are very important because they're going to mess up when she's tamei. If she sees from her body, so she knows when she saw it, hopefully, besides there's some issues. But if it's a stain, so then we have other problems. Also, a stain has another issue, is that we don't know in the stain how many times on the same spot she saw. It could be she saw once, twice, 3 times on the same spot, depending how big it is. It's okay? Okay. Let's see like this. Haraya Kesem, woman that sees a stain, Haraya Mikol Kelas. Her calculations are messed up because she doesn't know when the stain came. She doesn't know when the Nidda started, when it's supposed to be the Yud Aleph Yom. Doesn't know. Because she didn't check her clothing every day. What does that tell you?
That's the word used.
Mikol, yeah, over here you have the Mikol Kelas. And you also have a concern of Ziva. There's also that concern. Why? Because if the size of the stain is large enough that it would fit 3 half beans, which is the size that the stain becomes tummy. It's called a gris. Gris is a half a bean. So it's possible that stain is so large because she saw on 3 days. So each day she saw 1 gris, one gris. So Reb Meir, that's Reb Meir's concern. That it could be she's actually a Zava, even though there's only 1 stain there. So some say there's no problem over there. Kesem doesn't turn into a Zav. We have to see exactly what's going on. Gemara says like this: Man Chachamim. Who are the Chachamim here that say there's no problem with this stain? She doesn't become a Zav. You know, a Zav means that she has to bring a carbon. Like, the halachas are very serious. It says it's Rabbi Chanina ben Antignos. That's the opinion. The Tanya was taught in a brayso. Rabbi Chanina ben Antignos Rabbi Chanina ben Antignos says, Ksamim ein b'mishum zayv. Ksamim don't have ziva. However, but some could bring to ziva. How is that? Ketzad, what's the case? If she wore 3 different garments and each one was examined before she put it on, and she finds a stain on each one, she changes her clothes every day, and each day she finds a stain on it. That would be, she would be a zava. Or she saw blood coming from her body 2 days. And then there was 1 garment that she wore, and she sees a stain on the garment. So that's 2 plus 1 would be the 3 days. She would be a zava. That would be the ksamim that bring to ziva. The Gemara asks, you gave 2 examples. Your examples need to be significant. You can't tell me examples that the second example was already included in the first one. If 3 garments she never saw from her body, she only sees stains on her clothes, and nevertheless you say that she became a Zava Gedaila. She sees twice and then 1 garment. You have to tell me that that's also considered a Ziva. 3 garments was a Ziva. My answers. I could have thought like this. Could have thought if you saw 2 days and only 1 garment, that she should bring a carbon and even eat the carbon. The problem with the carbon of a zava is that it's a bird, that malika is done with it. The back of the neck is cut with the fingernail of the kayan. Now, if she doesn't really need to bring that bird, then that bird is considered a nevela. It's forbidden to eat. So, but if she does need to bring it, then it's considered kosher. So here we're thinking that maybe the halacha here is that the bird is brought, but it's not eaten. So we want to bring both examples. Even when she saw 2 days and she saw a stain one day, that the bird is still not eaten. Because otherwise I could have thought, if the example was only she saw 3 days, she said 3 stains, that it's not eaten. What about if she saw twice from her body and 1 stain, maybe the bird is eaten? No, they're both the same halacha, that if there's a stain involved, you don't eat the bird.
Did you say that if she brought it, but she didn't really need to, because she wasn't really a zalba?
Right.
And it's
It would be considered a nevela. Yeah. Right, because malika only works if that's the halacha, then it's. Otherwise, they have to do proper shchita. Yeah, Amar Rava. Rava says, Zakinu Rabbi Chanina ben Antignas l'Rabbanan. With this, Rabbi Chanina ben Antignas was victorious over the rabbis. In other words, he gave them a response that they weren't able to come back. According to the rabbis, if you have 3 stains in one spot, 3 sizes of a half a bean in one spot, only if you have 3 is she tamei, according to Rabbi Meir. According to Rabbi Chanina ben Antignas, not if it's in one spot. So Rabbi Chanina ben Antignas tells to the rabbis, which means Rabbi Meir. He says, if you have less than 3 grisin, the leichashinan, we don't suspect. Why not? The minan b'trei mechazise. We say that it was only took this stain, the size of the stain only took 2 days, because it wasn't 3 grisim, it was only 2 and a bit. So we say that it came in 2 days. So therefore, she's not a zava gedola. If you have 3 sizes, you can say the same thing. You could say that 2 of them are actual blood, and the 3rd one came from an insect. See, the halacha is like this: that if a stain is not the size of a grid, if it's not the right size, right? If a woman has a stain, so they measure the size of the stain. So they measure it. Today they use a dime to measure to see the size. That's the size of a half a bean. So an American dime, the coin. So if it's less than that, we say no, it's tar. It's blood. We said, yeah, but that size could be that it came from an insect, like a mosquito or something, a gnat or a mosquito. Or a louse. Okay. It could be it came from a louse, because that's the amount of blood that would come out of. But if it's more than that, then it couldn't be that it came from a louse. We don't suspect that there were 2. It's only 1. So here, Rabbi Chanina ben Antignas says, you saw that this garment had 3 stains in it, in one area. So you're saying that it came from her 3 times. But maybe 2.5 came from her, and the other half came from the louse.
What is the difference between like a wound and like this stuff?
Right.
It's all between the inside ones.
I guess not. You know why? Because the blood came from a woman. But it didn't come from that air. I mean, it's a
Unless she
parasite.
hit the mosquito, in which case the blood that was there wasn't really good blood. It came from the mosquito. Like you ever smash a mosquito, blood, it's not your blood.
Really, it's not your blood,
Not necessarily.
but it could be your blood.
Could be.
Your blood.
Send it off for 80-year-old.
Okay.
Could come from another victim, right?
That's what I'm thinking. Didn't have a chance.
My mosquito
But don't
bites
they
shouldn't-
die the moment they bite you? Mosquito?
Tangent.
What's that?
Down a wormhole.
What's a
Up and
bee
down a
hive?
wormhole.
Yeah,
It's not a-
Sorry I brought it up. Sorry I brought it up.
and then just
I don't know
Focus.
my bees in my,
bees.
Birds and the bees.
Back to Daf Yomi. Back to Daf Yomi.
Okay.
QRS
So for Rabbanan,
elemental peas.
the Rabbanan, kivan dika leflugi begris v'oid, l'kol yom alei talina. The Rabbanan say that you can divide it up into a gris for each day, so we don't say that it has to do with a macheles, because there's enough there to make your tummy. Rabbi Chanina ben Antignas, he holds gimel grisim b'makam echad hu delei chaysina. He's only arguing with them if you have 3 in one spot. The gimel makaimas, but if there are 3 different stains on the same garment, that would be enough. 3 stains together, he says is tar, but 3 different stains on the same garment, that would be tamei. The problem is, begimel chalukas in begimel makaimas light, but it says gimel chalukas. His example was shleisha chalukas. You didn't say 3 spots on the same garment. You said 3 different garments. So the Gemara explains that the name Rabbanan Kamarlo. He was only talking to them. It says Lidi di begimel chalukas in begimel makaimas light. I hold that it really needs to be 3 different garments for her to become tamei. But according to you, you should at least acknowledge that if you find it all in one spot, that really 2.5 comes from her, and the third one is because of the smell that brought an insect there, and it's got squished by an insect. For Rabbanan, the Rabbanan say since you can divide it into a gris, into a stain, we don't divide it up. Okay. We have a machlekes here. If you can divide up a stain that's large enough for 3, if it wasn't examined each of the days to see, and you just see after 3 days to say, wow, this is the size of a 3-day stain, 3 grisim, that one opinion says that that's the Reb Meir holds, the Rabbanan here, that's tamei, and Rabbi Chaim ben Tigna says that no, we need to be 3 different garments. Tana Rabbanan, done in a brisa. Raya Kesem, get ready.
This is very.
Get ready.
What a box.
You'll see. This is the Gemara does something. It does this. It's a very typical thing for the Gemara to do, but you get used to it. Raya Kesem, someone sees a stain. If you can divide up that stain into 3 half beans, then she's coming. And a little bit, right? There needs to be a gris vayit, that's what it needs to be. V'im lav, but if you can't divide it up, it's not a problem. Now, Rabbi Yehuda ben Agra, Omer, Mishum Rabbi Yaisi, Rabbi Yehuda ben Agra says, Achazu v'achazu chesheshes. You cheshesh anyway, even if it can't be 3 stains, 3 beans. Now, the explanation...
He says if it's smaller or if it's bigger.
Even if it's smaller. The explanation for Rabbi Yaisi, Rabbi Yehuda ben Agra, in the name of Rabbi Yaisi is the following. It needs to be on 3 days. He says that if one of them came bein hashmashas, that's counted as 1 stain for 2 days. And so it goes for both. So therefore, 2 stains could be enough.
What if
1 plus the bein hashmashas one is 2.
For you, this is achazu.
Oh, achazu means whether it's the ve'im lav, whether it's the gris va'id, gimel grisim va'id, or if the ve'im lav.
So it has to be 2 grisim.
2 grisim. Either 2 grisim or 3 grisim. Yeah.
So he doesn't need the va'id.
I'm sorry, 2 grisim va'id. 2 grisim
So
va'id.
because of the ben hashmasha, it's considered 3 grisim.
Considered 3 grisim va'id.
So really, if it's not ben hashmasha, he agrees. That
Yeah.
it's 3
If you can get rid of the bein hashmashas issue, then he'll acknowledge. Yeah.
But again, it has to be 2 va'id.
It's a good thing we don't apply this reasoning to bris milah.
Why?
2 brisim.
Yeah.
It's still not right.
Oh.
It's logical. Because you don't
This
say
is
it
where the
applies to
Benish
both
Moshe
days,
starts
the
from,
opposite,
when
the
people
other
drink.
applies to either day.
Because they
In which
consider
case it
that they're
wouldn't count.
drinking as one for the previous day, so you could have 2 drinks that equals only for one.
What was it?
That's why they started the whole Ben Hashmashos movement. Because they could take 2 drinks that equals to one. So it's not, the effect is not so strong.
It's the other way.
Being hush
It's the other way. They get a bigger kick. Every time they have one drink, it's counted for yesterday's and today's. So they get 2 drinks. They can save money on the.
It's half and half. Yeah, drinks of
It's an interesting idea. Does this reasoning apply elsewhere in Allah?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. To count it for both, I don't know. The stuff with the Bein Hashmashos is a big deal, but this is it's the other way. The Bein Hashmashos movement is they only want to have 4 l'chaim, so they have 4, and then they say, "Oh, that was yesterday."
That's what I'm saying. That's why you can have more.
Okay, so I'm a Rebbe. Rebbe says, now Rebbe's going to complicate things a little bit, although it looks like he's simplifying it. But what he's doing is, I'll read it, I'll explain what's happening. Nirin divrei Rabbi Yehuda ben Agra b'shalei badka, v'divrei Chacham b'shabbat. He's saying like this: if she did an examination bein hashmashos to see if she's seeing bein hashmashos, then the Chachamim should be correct, because there was no bein hashmashos. There you need 3 stains. Didn't come bein hashmashos. But if she didn't do an examination, then Rabbi Yehuda ben Agra, in the name of Rabbi Yossi, may be correct. Maybe it came bein hashmashos. You follow? Sounds very simple, very logical. The only problem when Rebbe says things like that and does this all over is that it starts to tell, it gives us, it determines for us what the machlekes is. Because he says, if he's accepting the words of Rabbi Yehuda ben Agra when there was no examination, that means that Rabbi Yehuda ben Agra himself was arguing even when there was an examination. Now that complicates things. You follow? Because he's saying, I'll accept his words only in such a case. That means that he was really saying much more than that. And he's only accepting his words. It would be much easier if we didn't have that deal. But the problem is that we're going to, if Rebbe says that, it must mean that they're arguing on even more. Okay. Gemara says, my badka, my like badka. What does it mean, examining and not examining? What are we talking about? Amar Rava says, Ashkachtinu l'Rabbanan debei Rav. I found the Rabbanan in the yeshiva of Rav, the Yasi v'Kamri, that they were sitting and they were discussing. They were saying, they're talking about, she did an examination. She examined herself. However, but she didn't examine the garments. So in other words, after the 3 days, she examined the garment. And herself, when did she do that examination? Bein hashmashos. And it goes like this. That's the case. Only during the Bein hashmashos of Rabbi Yehuda. But Bein hashmashos to Rabbi Yossi leibadka, but she didn't do an examination of Bein hashmashos of Rabbi Yossi. I guess I should explain right here that there is a machlekes when Bein hashmashos is. Rabbi Yehuda holds that it's more than half a mil. What's the time period? How long is twilight in between day and night? What's the time? Rabbi Yehuda says that there's actually a measurement there. It's machlekes. It's either 3/4 of a mil or 2/3 of a mil. Now a mil would be the equivalent of a mile, but it's not really a mile. It's 2,000 amos or 1,000 amos. In halacha, it's considered 2,000 amos. And I think in Rome it was 1,000 cubits, but 2,000 amos. And the amount of time it takes to walk 2,000 amos is probably 18 minutes. Machlekes 22, whatever. Let's say 18 minutes. 2/3 of a mil. 2/3 of a mil, which that I think would be 12 minutes. 12 minutes. So Rabbi Yehuda says that Bein hashmashos takes 12 minutes. Let's say. Rabbi Yossi says Bein hashmashos is keherifying, like a blink of an eye. Now, to do an examination for Rabbi Yehuda's Bein hashmashos, would mean that she's examining herself for 12 minutes. Doing an examen for Rabbi Yossi would mean she's doing a quick examination. So what we're saying over here is that if an examination was done, then the Chachamim would be correct. No examination was done, then Rabbi Yehuda ben Agra would be correct, that it could be she saw. So what's the case over here? Did she do an examination or not? So we're saying that she did an examination during the Bein Hashmashas of Rabbi Yehuda, but not in the Bein Hashmashas of Rabbi Yossi. That means the 12 minutes she did the examination, but after the Bein Hashmashas of Rabbi Yehuda, possibly, comes the Bein Hashmashas of Rabbi Yossi. There's two opinions here. But let's say that after Rabbi Yehuda's Bein Hashmashas comes Rabbi Yossi's Bein Hashmashas, which is that's 1 second, that it comes in and out, it goes from one day to the next. The Rabbanan Savri, the Rabbanan hold Bein Hashmashas to Rabbi Yossi Lailahu. The Rabbanan hold that the Bein Hashmashas of Rabbi Yossi, that's already definitely night, the following day. And the examination was done, so there was no blood during that time. So therefore, there's only 2 spots here. For Rabbi Yossi L'Tamei. However, Rabbi Yehuda ben Agra follows, is saying the name of Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi follows his own opinion that when is Bein Hashmashas? Later on. And there was no examination done during that time. Damar Bein Hashmashas Sveikavi, that he says his Bein Hashmashas is a suffix, is still a doubt. So therefore, no examination was done. It could be that that she saw blood during Bein Hashmashas, and then it counts for 2 days. This is the statement of Rava that he's saying in the name of the Rabbanan that were in the yeshiva of Rav. V'amina lahu ana. Rava says, however, I told him, that's a good shot if you could say that she was doing an examination all 12 minutes of Rabbi Yehuda. Achshav, however, 12 minutes is a long time to do an examination. Shemem sila kidera. So maybe she took it out in middle. She can't do an examination the whole time. Sometime during that time, she did an examination. But when she took it out, the blood came right then. And they responded, Ki kamrinan, when were we talking about? When her finger was in her eye. That means that when the examination was there the entire time.
Being found on her clothing? Or wasn't
it's actually being found on her clothing. And she's checking her clothing at the end of 3 days, or 2 days, at the end of 3 days. But she's examining herself without examining her clothing during the Bein Hashmashas. So the stain is not on the cloth that she's using as an examination cloth. That's perfectly clean. All we're trying to figure out is, can the stain on her clothing
what is her examination that comes out clean have anything to do with the stains on her clothing?
Because if she examined herself properly during the Bein Hashmashas, then we know that the stain on her clothing did not come Bein Hashmashas. Because during the Bein Hashmashas, she was perfectly clean. So if the stain on her clothing is not from Bein Hashmashas, then she only has a total of 2 stains. But if she did not do an examination Bein Hashmashas, then it could be that the second stain came Bein Hashmashas, in which that means she has 3 stains. 2 physically, but halachically 3. Okay. So that's good. So far, so good.
So why would you need the v'oid? Because
the gris v'oid is one measurement.
No, but why would you say that it's the first day could have been Bein Hashmashas?
Okay.
And the second day could have been Bein Hashmashas. So now we already have 3, and we already have 4.
Yeah, but I still need the 2. Even 4, I still need the 2.
Right, but not v'oid.
No, the gris v'oid is the measurement goes together. Gris v'oid, that's the gris v'oid comma. The gris v'oid is the measurement. A gris itself could be from a machelas.
So
Gris v'oid is not from
if
machelas.
it's 2 days, you don't need a v'oid because you have 4. So you could have just the gris.
No, it's automatically a gris v'oid. You have 4. Oh, what do you mean just a
what
gris?
I'm saying, the whole thing is a measurement. It's called gris v'oid.
Right.
So why don't you add a machlokes and saying that in the case of 2 days, according to
could be it was both Bein Hashmashas,
and it doesn't have to be gris v'oid. It could be even less. Why don't you say it could be 3/4 of a gris?
Oh no, because
you have Bein Hashmashas twice.
No,
so
anything
that's times 4.
Anything that's less than a gris, I assume came from a louse. So I need the gris v'oid.
But if it's Bein Hashmashas,
Bein Hashmashas, I still need a gris v'oid. It could be a louse Bein Hashmashas.
but it's from 2 days.
It doesn't matter.
lousy
It doesn't
system.
matter.
It doesn't add.
Doesn't matter, no.
I have no idea what
It doesn't get any bigger. It's just that one seeing,
Uh-huh.
which is a gris va'id, could be counted as two seeings, but it doesn't get larger.
Doesn't get large.
So I hear. I'm a, oh my God. Okay. I didn't see the time. Okay. I'm a Rebbe. Okay.
The year's lunch.
Okay. Okay.
So we're still one page.
Yeah. Okay. Have a good day.
All right, thank you.